Hello there my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review, and I thought I'd start with the best and then we'll get with the rest. Guess who's back? Jenny and Sumit. Yes, that's right, it's 90 Day Fiance the Other Way, Season 3, Episode 1. Now guys, I'm going to get straight into it because we've got an awful lot to cover, as per usual with this couple. So Jenny is a 62-year-old from Palm Springs and Sumit is a 32-year-old from India. They met via social media back in 2012. And a bit of catfishing, a marriage to someone else, and many lies later, they're still together. And this is the couple's third season on 90 Day Fiance, so most of you fans out there will know this couple. However, for those of you who don't know Sumit, lucky bloody you. I long to go back to the heady days before I knew Sumit. And I think the main thing you need to know about Sumit is he's both a liar and a cheat. Never ever forget that. Keep that in your head at all times and it will serve you well when viewing this specimen. And Sumit's American partner, Jenny, is 30 years his senior. Although the childishness with which both of these characters take life, you'd imagine that each one of them is but a mere teenager. And Jenny, poor Jenny, she's not the brightest of sparks. And Jenny's previous job was as Professor of Gullible Studies in Palm Springs. Jenny's naive, dupable and insecure, it's a deadly combo. So I have done a previous video on this couple, and for those of you who are completely unfamiliar with them, I do suggest that at some point you go back and watch this video. It will give you a lot of context. And the video is called The Truth About Jenny and Sumit, and I will link the video here and I'll also link it down below in information. But what I want to do before I discuss this week's episode is just give those of you who are new to this couple a quick rundown of Jenny and Sumit's relationship to date. And so without further ado, I give you Jenny and Sumit. So Jenny and Sumit met online, and Sumit at the time worked in a call centre, and when he and Jenny hit it off, they spent hours and hours talking on the phone. And just in case you're wondering, Sumit wasted no time at all in vomiting his brand of lies and deceit immediately to Jenny. So this was all the way back in 2012, and Sumit pretended he was an American and he told Jenny his name was Michael Jones. He sent this series of photos to Jenny and began an online relationship. Jenny, who as I've already told you, is a byword for gullible, lapped up the fact that a 25-year-old model, 30 years her junior, just couldn't wait to get his hands on her. So Jenny and Sumit decided to meet, and Jenny flew over to India and went to live with Sumit, who lived with his parents. And instead of just saying they were in a relationship, Jenny actually lied and said she was learning the language or something. And she actually made friends with Sumit's mum, who's just 1 year younger than her. And Jenny and Sumit conducted the relationship under the nose of his parents in a less than clandestine manner. And what makes me say that? Well, according to Sumit's mum, she had suspicions all along what was happening, and when she found out for sure, Jenny was out on her ear. So Jenny went back to America, and the plan was that Jenny was going to sell her house, give up her job, and then move back to India, marry Sumit, and live together as bullshitter and wife. What went wrong? You might ask. Please guys, like I told you, remember, Sumit's a liar. So basically Jenny went home, sold a house, gave up her job, basically dismantled the whole of her life, much to the irritation of her daughter, and off she skipped to India. And when she got there, she moved into a flat with Sumit, and for the first 36 hours everything was okay. And then she noted that Sumit kept going missing, he was gone for days at a time. And then suddenly one day, rat-a-tat-tat, there was a knock at the door. It was Sumit's wife's parents, and they came to take Sumit out of the house and back to their daughter. Guys, you couldn't even make it up. In the meantime, whilst Jenny was at home, Sumit had actually gone and got married to somebody else. In fact, it was an arranged marriage organised by his parents, no doubt to try and just get rid of Jenny for once and for all. But like I said in earlier videos, Jenny's like Japanese knotweed. Once it starts growing under your house, it gets its roots in and there's no getting rid of it. And that's Jenny to a T. So obviously Jenny was devastated when she discovered that Sumit was married, and Jenny went back again to the States, tail between her legs. For most people, that would have been it. But oh no, not Jenny. Sumit got back on the phone with her, and he said he doesn't love his new wife, he loves her, and he's divorcing his new wife. He begged and pleaded, and in the end Jenny agreed to go back to India once more, to live with Sumit and to become his wife. So when she arrived, she discovered two things: his brother and his wife, all of his friends and his parents, in fact anybody who'd ever met Jenny, and even many folks who hadn't, disapproved wholeheartedly of this relationship. For a number of reasons. Jenny obviously can't have kids, she's also 30 years his senior, and she's also a bloody liar. But despite all of this, Jenny said, we know what we have, we know the love that we feel for each other, and we'll get married. Jenny, it's not you making the decisions, it's Sumit. But Sumit, in yet another lie, had promised Jenny that he was already divorced before she got back to India. When she touched down, of course he was still married. And so Sumit had to pay something like 10,000 American dollars to divorce his wife, and his parents had to put up that money. But finally one day, the divorce did come through and Jenny said, fantastic, let's get married. And literally 1 or 2 days before they were supposed to actually have the ceremony, Sumit said, let me seek the approval of my parents. Sumit, what do you mean seek the approval? They hate her. They'll never approve. They don't want you to marry Jenny. What's not clicking? So his parents came round and it was a very fractious meeting, but the upshot of it all was Sumit's mum promised to commit suicide if Sumit ever married Jenny. And at that point Sumit said, well, what can I do? There's no way I can chance it. Jenny, we're going to have to find another way of keeping you in the country. I hope you guys are keeping up with all of this. And it does all get quite confusing, but then you remember Sumit's a fucking liar. And all becomes very clear. So what happened this week? Well, Sumit comes up with yet another way to wriggle out of marrying Jenny. And Jenny tells production, every time we try to get married, something stops us. Yes, Jenny, that something's called a Sumit. He's about 34, 5'8", and he's a full-time bullshitter. And so Sumit tells her he's got a surprise for her. It's not that much of a surprise. It's the usual. We ain't getting married. But anyway, he's taken her to see an astrologer. And he tells us that this astrologer always gets things correct. He's been right many, many times. And also this astrologer has been, well, making shit up to Sumit's family for about 20 years. And then the astrologer says many years ago he's predicted that Sumit would fall for an older lady and that also he'd have a troubled marriage. Really, Sumit? I find this hard to believe. Do we have any independent proof? If so, I'd like you to submit this now for Ebird's appraisal. And the astrologer said, how can I help? And Sumit asked, what can we do to make my parents agree to let us marry? And straight away the astrologer said, best not to do anything, as your parents have already given you the answer, so don't cause a fight. What? Guys, it sounds to me very like this astrologer is working on behalf of Sumit's parents. And Sumit tried again. He said, well, we have to sort this out before Jenny's visa runs out. And so the problem they have at the moment is that Jenny's got a 10-year visa to live in India, but she has to leave the country every 6 months to get it renewed. Obviously she doesn't want to do that because it's very costly, flying out of the country, flying to Nepal and flying back again. But I've got a feeling that for Sumit, this is the perfect solution. And then the astrologer said, let God decide what's good for you. Again, what? So let God decide. Not your astrology then. Taxi! Nearest temple, please. And when this astrologer says he's been right many, many times, I'm thinking to myself, about what? About Sumit's lying ways? About the fact that your so-called astrology is little more than your opinion on what Sumit should do. Tell me specifically which planets say that they shouldn't get married. I'll wait. And Jenny tells production, Sumit has to marry me. No, he doesn't. And then she said, this is so sad. I wish the man I love could make a decision. He already has. He doesn't want to marry you. We want to get married. This is what you say that you want as well. So just do it. And with that, they take their leave. Next time we see this couple, they're back at their house. And Jenny looks extremely worried. She gets her laptop out and she lets Sumit know that her tourist visa is actually now closed. So apparently what's been happening during COVID is that instead of her having to leave India and renew her tourist visa, she's actually been able to just get it extended online. But now because some countries are open and because there's some limited travel to different countries, it seems the Indian government have decided to close her visa. And Sumit sat there looking at Jenny, like he always does, with a completely blank, inert face. And he said, well, let's see if we can go to Nepal and stay there for a few months until your visa's approved. And he said, I know, I'll call a travel agent. So not an immigration lawyer then, just a travel agent. Makes sense to me. Oh, don't tell us, Sumit. It's your family travel agent that's been dealing with you for 20 years, and he thinks it's all a bad idea. So he calls the travel agent, and he promptly tells Sumit that the border to Nepal is closed. And Sumit said, is there any other country we can go to? And the travel agent said, yeah, maybe Thailand or Bali. And the Ebird's thinking, maybe Canada or the United States of America. And then Sumit said, but I haven't got a passport at the moment. My ex-wife's family took it from me. What? Sumit, you finished with her about 2 years ago. Why haven't you got your passport renewed? This is what I'm telling you guys. Sumit looks for every reason not to marry Jenny. He creates problems rather than solving them. In fact, he is the problem. He's a pint-sized problem. And Sumit asked, where else can I go with no passport? And the travel agent lets him know, nowhere of course. Sumit is such a dolt. And he said, okay, well, if anything changes with this worldwide pandemic, be sure to call me back and let me know. But it seems as if the travel agent's already hung up. No surprise there. And Sumit said, well, that's it. And Jenny said, well, it looks like I'm going back to America. And Sumit said, well, yeah, it seems like there's no choice. And Jenny said, there is a choice. You can just marry me. Oh, Jenny, we've established over the preceding 9 years that marriage is off the menu, as it were. He's not going to marry you. It's not going to happen. And Sumit said, I can't marry you. You know the threat. And of course is referring to his mother's threat of taking her life. And Jenny said, well, I have no choice. I have to go back to America. What else can I do? And Sumit said, well, you can go back to America and come back again. And Jenny said, no way, I am not continually doing that. I have no home to go to. I have nothing. I have no job. What can I do? I'm going to leave and go back to America. And do you know what? I'm not going to come back. I won't do it again. That's it, Sumit. And by this point, she was absolutely screeching. And she said, why would I come back for the 4th time? Sumit, it's always your parents. All of this is because of your parents. Jenny, no, it's not. It's all because of Sumit. And she said, I'm done with all this crap. And she picked up a plastic chair and she threw it across the room. And it flew through the air right through the door and landed in the yard. And Sumit just sat there with his puppy dog eyes, completely inert, knowing full well that Jenny will indeed be back for the 4th time. And that's where we end things for this week. So what does the Ebird make to all of this? Guys, sometimes I just don't know where to start with Sumit, but I'm thinking water cannon, because he really is a dirty little liar. So Sumit is always looking for ways not to get married. In previous seasons we've seen him give Jenny a ring, which then turns out not to be an engagement ring, but a friendship ring. You're already bloody friends, you idiot, Sumit. You got her into the country telling her, yes, I'll definitely marry you. You don't then present the woman with a friendship ring. And another time when they were supposed to get married, as we all know, he'd married somebody else. Another time he decided to go and see his friends. And he asked them, what do you think about us getting married? And of course they all guffawed and laughed and said, no. And incidentally, his friends turned up just on their own. They didn't even bring their wives, and they all told him, our wives don't agree with what you're doing. And then when it really definitely looked like they were going to get married, and they'd organised a date and they were going to go to the courthouse, he suddenly sprung it onto Jenny, I want my brother and my sister-in-law to come. Knowing good and damn well they were going to tell his parents. And they'd all managed to put the kibosh on things. Sumit has consistently lied, and it's extremely clear to me he does not want to get married. Sumit sees no problem in them just living together. And Jenny gets £1,500 a month from her 401k. And she and Sumit live quite a nice life on this money, once it's transferred to Indian rupees. I think Summit's more than happy with things as they are. He'd be quite happy for Jenny to trundle up to Nepal every 6 months to go and renew her visa. And as for Jenny, I did used to feel sorry for her, but that's all gone now. Jenny needs to have a bit of self-worth. This man has lied to you consistently over a 9-year period. I think that's enough for most people, don't you? If marriage is important to you, then let go of this relationship, because it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I know you'll never ever find another Sumit, but most would say that's a bloody good thing. And because Jenny's so unhappy with the status quo, she consistently moans at Sumit. And I know having to listen to Jenny is a cruel and unusual punishment, but Sumit completely deserves it. Jenny's never ever going to get what she wants from this relationship, and I think, Jenny, you should just go. After all, it's better to piss off than to be pissed on. And if there's one thing I know about this whole relationship, it's this. Sumit has been consistently happy to have you leave him. First up, when he catfished you and lied to you about who he was, you could have just left, and he was prepared for that to happen. Then when he invited you to India, he was happy for you to go back home. He didn't want to marry you then. Then he begged for you to come back. When you came back, you discovered he was married. At that point, you would have been well within your rights to leave him and never ever speak to or see him again. He was prepared for that. In fact, he was probably anticipating it. But back you bounced. And this time round, he told you the divorce will be through in a couple of days, and when you arrived in India, the divorce was nowhere near finished, and even when it was, he's still refusing to marry you. He's still coming up with new plans not to marry you on a weekly basis. It's almost a full-time job to Sumit at this point, working out new ways not to marry you. So all of this tells me one thing: Sumit is completely prepared to lose you. And if someone's completely prepared to lose you, that means they don't love you. There isn't real love in this relationship. That's the conclusion I've drawn. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you think Sumit does actually love Jenny? Or do you think he just strings her along? I think he likes her. He's happy to go along with the status quo, but he doesn't want to do what it takes to make Jenny secure and happy. And what do you think to Jenny? Do you kind of think as I do at this point, it's kind of your own fault now? You've kind of had enough clues that Sumit ain't shit, and you refuse to pick up on them. So guys, let me know what you think in comments down below, and I'll get on with my next video. And please, just before I go, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you've yet to do so. I think I've got about 5 subscribers to go before I get the big 40,000, so help to push me over this weekend. And also, please don't forget to smash the like button. Guys, thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.